Marketing Officer of Primerica Life. Excited to be able to spend some time with you all today on this incredible topic on end of term. We are going to dive into a number of different pieces that we have today, really focused on your end of term business. Now, I want everybody to understand, number one, we're going to kind of break this into two sections. I'm going to cover the beginning half of this, and it's going to focus more on kind of the end of term process, the overview of why it's so important, of what we do. I'm going to focus in on some of the high level things that we've been a part of for the last number of years on how the changes with end of term. And then I'm excited to have on Jake Marchesani, our regional sales manager from the Northwest, who he himself has been a part of the end of term process in his own career, but even more so is he's going to get to deliver a brand new process where we move from a paper process today with end of term to a digital process. Guys, this is revolutionary. It is going to change the way you get to dive into end of term. But before we do, I want to touch base on a couple of different things. The first thing is we sent out a special invite to RVPs who have end of terms. We were able to pull out that list and say, hey, we want to make sure you have all the things that you need for 2025. So if you're an RVP, you had a EOT for 2025, we wanted to send you a special invite to be able to join us today on being able to do this. And the main reason we wanted to do it is to ensure that you have access to the tools, the knowledge you need to be able to run your end of term business as effectively and efficiently as possible. Teammates, we recognize that today, the end of term is a huge portion of a lot of people's business. And so with that being said, Jake, you can go to the slide where it kind of covers our 3 points on end of term. I want to hit a couple of things about end of term that really makes an impact for why it's important that we spend here the time today. The first part of it is, number one is, guys, our end of term process is a key part of doing what's right for our clients. And I'm going to talk about what we do here in a second. But I want to, if you ever compare what is out in the industry of what most people's term life end of term experience is from any other company, you're going to recognize that what we do is significantly different than what the industry does. And so what we do in Primerica Life and NBL and Canada Life for Primerica, what we do is we try to bring as many options and benefits to our clients that's out there as possible. And so it's a part of what we feel like is doing the right thing. The industry, from everything that I have seen, historically either converts that client to a whole life policy, right, which we know how we feel about whole life cash value policies, or B, they put them into term, annual renewable term, where they skyrocket the rates, where most clients can afford and they don't, and they leave that client. And so insurance companies out in the industry either convert them into a product where we don't believe in, or they raise their rates so sky high they know most consumers can't stay with it. And so the first part is to recognize what we do is right for our clients. We fight for them to make sure we have options and benefits that are out there. The second thing is increased income for our field leaders. You know, this is an opportunity, once again, if you're a distributor and someplace else, an agent with another industry inside the industry, they don't create end of term sales opportunities for there. This is a significant number. And right now, roughly about $40 million worth of compensation is paid out to the sales force just for end of term experiences. And so we want to make sure that you all have an opportunity to understand that we know that this is a significant portion of a lot of people's business. And the last one, it's a unique process designed for EOT that benefits both the clients and representatives. You know, what we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that we improved our Primerica experience with EOT. And so what you're going to hear today from Jake is you're going to hear about that new experience. I'm so excited for you to be able to hear that. But before we do, go to the next slide for me, if you don't mind, Jake, is we want to talk about what these industry-leading renewal options are. And so this is just as a refresher. I just want to do this so everybody here understands that if you are this is your first year with end of terms coming in, this section is for you. The first three things I want to talk about is what you're going to see is the options that the client has. Remember, in the industry, they're focused on having a whole life policy, an annual and renewable term that's out there. What we offer here at Primerica Life, I'm so proud of what we do for our clients, is number one is we have the ability for them to continue their policy. Now, what that means is when we sold the policy, let's just say 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever it might be, inside of that policy, it showed you what the continuation would look like. So it was a contractual obligation that we say, hey, this is what it would look like. But inside of our policies, even when we sold 20, 30 years ago, we gave two other contractual rights and opportunities in there. The first was the ability to go to a decreasing term. The number of individuals that have recognized that, hey, decreasing term might be the best thing for them and their family, they're able to use that. It's a great tool that's inside there. It fits certain clients' needs of what they're able to do. The other part is that they also have annual renewable term. They can convert it into an ART policy where if they just want to do it year by year to be able to do it. But by and large, most of our clients do either the first one, which is continue, which typically the product series that we're converting from is going to 5-year level increments of term coverage all the way up until age 70. And then at age 70, they're going to have to pick either a decreasing term or an ART. The other part that they'll do is the last one, which is custom exchange, which is only a few years old, right? And so this idea of custom exchange that's out there is that what that opportunity is, what that product is we said to our clients, hey, what we realize is most clients, when they get to the end of term experience, is that when they get there, they turn around wanting to decrease coverage to find out a level amount of coverage, but over time they want to make sure that they see the ability to keep their cover or their premiums level, and their coverage slowly decreases over time, and that's where custom exchange came in. And so, because we only created a few years ago, it's not in the contract. That's why they get to exchange their policy for this product here. By and large, most consumers out there either continue their policy or they go through that custom exchange process. And so wanted to make sure you understood what those products were, number one. But the second part is timing matters on your end of term experiences. And just as a high level, we want to kind of talk to you guys about making sure you understand the timing of what happens. So the first thing that you will see when you are in your end of term manager is that you will notice that at 120 days out from an end of term experience, we are going to load what we call is loading of the EOT manager of all of your clients that are coming up for that end of term during that month. So you get access to that information a full 2 months, 2 months prior to the time that we're going to communicate anything with your client. Now, it's important that you hear this. We communicate with you 120 days out. At 60 days out before renewal, unless you tell us not to, we are going to send out a packet. Now, if you've been around the end of term packet for a while, you know that this packet, it's a little gnarly. It's a little bit, cumbersome. The first time, if they haven't talked to you in years, it might be the first time they're hearing from Primerica, and it's about an increase in their coverage. We're going to talk about the game plan. What are the things that you can be focused on that create a better experience, better than that 60-day packet? Now, if we still don't hear anything from our clients at the 10 days before the renewal date, we are required to send out a notice to that client to say, hey, your premiums are going up. We need to be able to let you and notify you. And then lastly is that renewal date. So first thing I want to talk about is that number one, you have 60 days from 120 down to 60 days of time to be able to get a hold of that client if you choose to be able to get to them prior to that. And we're going to talk about how that 60 days is so key in being able to run your end of term business. But the other part is that the timing of everything else is that the client might get the packet almost 2 months prior to them being able to go through their end of term process when the policy is fully through its life cycle at that point. And so with that, I want to switch over to more of an idea of best practices. This is something that, has been around the insurance side of the business for a number of years. I want to be able to give you some tips and tricks on this. We study the numbers. There are RVPs that do phenomenal job with end of term. And by the way, you see it in their end of term bonuses, you see it in their end of term comp, and then you have other RVPs that aren't as focused into it. So the first thing I got to tell you, if you want a best practice for in a successful end of term business, number one is you got to take ownership of it. And what that might mean is you might not personally be doing the business, but you need to have a game plan. You as the RVP, hopefully that's you plugging into this, is saying number one is I need to make sure somebody's running my end of term business. That's key point number one. Anything in life that's successful has to have attention to it. We have to be intentional about it. And I'm going to challenge you, if you don't have an intentional game plan about your end of term business, it's not going to be successful. We want to make sure that you put a focus on it, you get the right person, you find somebody that can help with it. Number two, I would tell you is the end of term business is a contact sport. I mean, that's what this is that you need to contact your clients. Now, before we talk about best practices, I want to recognize where we're at when we talk about the end of term clients. Most of these clients are clients who came to us 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, right? And they turn around and the information that we have on them from 20, 25, 30 years ago is not as current as we would like. Most of the phone numbers that are on these applications from 20, 25, 30 years ago, right, are not cell phone numbers. They're landlines that are no longer there. And so we realized that you can't just pick up a phone and call somebody to say, hey, I need to talk to you about your end of term experience that's coming up. But instead, we've got to try to communicate. The email addresses, as much as we would love to say, hey, man, if I could just send emails, mass emails out there, most of them are from AOL, and then they don't check their AOL account anymore from 20, 25, 30 years ago. And so the challenge that we face really in our end of term client base is that the contact information that we have is not current. But what we do have that is current is the idea of is their address. And so from every RVP, when I start talking to RVPs who have a successful EOT business, they tell me if they can contact their client prior to the packet, that everything goes a lot better. But the only way they can get a hold of their clients is by mailing them something. And so we learned from you all in the sales force, and we started studying. We recognized certain RVPs were getting better and better results than others. And so what are you doing? We found out that a couple RVPs were using an end of term postcard. And we said, how do we take that idea and we want to turn around and create it in a way where you all have access to it? So this is not new information, but I want to give you a tip. This is the goal. And then this is an incredible tool. So this is an item that you can purchase through the store. Is an end of term postcard. You can have it personalized. So you can go ahead and be able to have your information, your contact information preloaded into this postcard. And what we found out is RVPs who have incredibly successful end of term businesses is when the packets get loaded at 120 days out, they go and create a postcard and mail them to their clients to say, hey, urgent information about your life insurance policy. We need to talk is basically what it does. Now, I want to give you another tip. It's not usually the first postcard that they get that they call on. So RVPs tell me, they say, hey, I usually go ahead and write out 2 or 3 postcards. I send the first one the first week, I wait a week, and I send a second postcard the second week. And it's amazing to me on the second or third postcard a client gets, they start making a phone call back to say, hey, I keep getting this postcard. Tell me what I need to do. And at that point, everything changes. And I want you to understand why it changes. Because at that point, they don't know anything other than they got a postcard. But if they get the packet at 60 days first, they already see a lot of information and numbers, and they're already going to be going, hey, what's going on? Why is this changing? Why is the price going up? And now you're having to play defense. But if you can get to talk to the client prior to them knowing any of the information, it changes the interaction, it changes the experience, and we're going to be able to spend a little bit more on how to be able to run some of those successful things here in a couple of seconds here. And so I wanted to make sure, Jake, go back for me 1 second, is to talk about it. If you were questioning on this, I want you to see inside of the company store, the purchase number is A9338, and this is something that can be personalized. I would highly recommend utilizing this tool. All right, I want to keep on diving on because I know you're here because you want to hear what Jake's going to talk about, which is the brand new process. I just wanted to be able to hit this. Other quick things I want to touch base on. Number one is CRM. If you are not plugging into CRM, teammates, this is an incredible opportunity for you to be able to leverage this. There's ways to be able to identify clients before they turn 70. I recognize that our end of term options and benefits really only go up to clients up to age 70, but we have ways to be able to contact that client before age 70. And we want to be able to use CRM to start creating communication at 60 years old, 65 years old, to make sure they're putting themselves in the best positions retirement-wise, being able to make sure they have all the things that they need. Let's not just wait until that end of term experience. Let's do a full customer service experience for the clients during that time and not wait until after 70. But with that being said, something brand new that we did just this last year is we started to find out from our VPs, they wanted to know what clients were actually hitting end of term over the age of 70. There's not a lot of options. I know I'll get a ton of emails and questions. Can we ever do something aged over 70? And I know there's something that we'll always look into. Still haven't gotten a perfect example of what we can do there. But what we wanted to give you is a list of all of your clients that are going to turn have end of term over age 70. So if you go out to special reports, you're going to have access to that list of clients that is going to be having an end of term experience over the age of 70. So at least you know, especially if it's your brother-in-law, I don't want you to have a horrible Christmas opportunity or New Year's or whatever it might be when you have one of those experiences that's going on out there. Moving on to the next one, best practices, going back to the ability to really get to a client before the package. Here's what it does. It changes a lot of things because of the conversation you're able to have. Number one is confirm the client's financial needs. Is life insurance still a need? I'd love for them to be able to say, hey, my investments have done fantastic and I have a 401k I need to roll over, don't know where to go. I hear those stories all the time of an end of term turning into a 401k rollover. I hear all that, but when they get to the client prior to, they're not upset about the pricing changes. We're more having a financial conversation. Is there an investment opportunity? The second thing is position the client to understand their options, right? Every client is a little bit different. Let's talk to them, find out what they need. What are the things that are going through it? And so with that being said, I wanted to kind of level set to be able to say, hey, what are the best practices in the end of term experience? It's a contact sport, guys. You need to contact them, leverage that end of term postcard and create the open dialogue, get to them before the packet goes out. There's ways for you to be able to turn off the packet once you communicate with the client. We'll be able to hit through that in this process. But here's what I'm most excited about. This next part that Jake is going to jump in and talk about is we're going to go from an experience from this, right? How many of you guys, I know I'm not going to be able to see your hands, but I know this slide that's up here, which is this incredibly, let's just call it a little bit archaic form that we've had for years and years and years. This is the experience that our clients have had for the last number of years that we've been out there. And everybody asks, can we make a better packet? Can we do a little bit better things? I think we can. I think what we're about to deliver to you and share with you is we moved from a paper packet process to now being able to, Jake, go to the next slide, an entirely digital end of term process. This process now is going to get the ability to email a client a quote, ability to be able to send them all the things that they need to satisfy their end of term experience via DocuSign. No more faxing, no more scanning, no more trying to get clients' information back and forth. This new process really is going to take our client experience to the next level. I couldn't be more proud to introduce the next individual that's going to spend a lot of time with you all, that is really diving into this for you. Jake Marchesani is not he's been around the business quite like me, kind of grew up around this thing. But Jake is number one. He's our Northwest Regional Sales Manager, does an incredible job for a lot of that Northwest territory, all the way down to Arizona, up to Washington, Oregon, a lot of states that I still need to visit. But with being able to turn around, he brings incredible value. But when we talked in as a team to say, hey, who can help us really deliver the right message on talking about end of term? And Jake was the guy. Jake turned around. Number one, he's actually been an office manager just like me. We know what that experience looks like, but he's been firsthand around that end of term experience. And so without further ado, I wanted Jake to be able to walk you all through the brand new digital EOT packet. So Jake, turning it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve. And great to be with everybody today. Really excited about these new announcements that we have coming for you. The digital EOT packet. We've been getting a lot of excitement about this, a lot of questions. Hey, when are we going to be able to do end of term in a digital sense? And it's here, guys. And we want to let you know, first of all, this is live. This went live just a few days ago. So when you log into POL and you go to your end of term manager, like we're going to show you, you'll be able to complete these forms now. We've gone through a beta. We've gotten some great feedback. And I also want to make sure that you guys understand, like most things that we roll out with, this is not the finished product of ever, right? Like, we're going to make improvements on it. We've gotten it out. There's a lot of great features on here. We love feedback and we want to continue to improve this. So this is not the final version of it, but this is a great version and a great tool that I think you guys can use to build your end of term business. And so the biggest thing for it is, I want you to remember, this is a digital packet that provides the digital solution to complete your EOT coverage changes using DocuSign. So we're going to go through it. You're going to see that it's going to be very similar to Turbo Apps, our new Turbo Apps, the new policy change form. It's all built in the same platform, and keeping everything uniform across our life insurance applications. And so it should be very familiar, very comfortable. It's going to look very similar to a lot of the new applications that we have out there. But I want to let you guys know the important things with the digital packet, okay? This is going to support changes that are able to convert coverage within the end of term window. So Steve talked about it. A lot of you know the end of term window starts 120 days out, all the way until the client's anniversary date. So you're going to be able to convert custom exchange for the same amount or decreased coverage amount. You can continue the same plan or decrease it, or you can remove coverage from the policy. So you can think about the digital EOT packet as kind of a digital version of the coverage election form that Steve showed the comparison, right? The coverage election form is pretty much what you can do with these. Any changes that require underwriting will need to be submitted on a policy change form. So if you're working with the client and they want to qualify for new coverage, of course, you have to use the policy change form for that. But anything that requires the conversion to custom exchange or continue with the same plan, either same coverage or decreasing, it can all be done right here in the digital packet. So you're going to go ahead and log into POL. You go to your end of term manager to get started. And when you log in, of course, it'll look like this. And when you click on your lists, you're going to be able to go see your end of term list. And obviously we don't have time to go through all of those details, but a lot of you probably are familiar with your list, how to organize it, how to filter it, and of course the timeline that it comes out. But when you go into your end of term manager, of course, my POL, all apps for business, and go to your end of term manager, select the list. This is what it's going to look like, right? So you got your client details, you got their timeline, and you can click the policy number to view the information, click the client's name to see their details. Of course, you can filter, you can change servicing agent. There's a lot of stuff that you can do right in here. And a lot of you are familiar with that, especially office managers who help run the RVP base shop. Sometimes we change the servicing agent from the RVP to one of our teammates in the base shop who can do the end of term. Maybe some office managers reassign them to themselves and the office manager works the end of term list. So there's all those different options that we're already familiar with inside the end of term manager, but here's where it changes. Okay. So now on the right side, you can see you have the option to start a new packet. So when you go on the right and you see it, you can click start a new packet and you'll see other options. If you've already started one, you'll have an opportunity where it says ready to submit. We'll get to that in a little bit. Incomplete also means that a packet's been started, but hasn't been finished yet. We haven't got signatures from the client. So these are going to be the three different icons that you're going to see related to each policy. So let's jump right into it. Before we do that though, I do want to put out a very important message, because if you've been working end of terms, and I know a lot of you have, and I work with a lot of RVPs who do end of terms, you probably have a little bit of a system, a timeline that you like to use. Traditionally, under this paper format, end of term does take a little bit of time, right? Like Steve was saying, we may have a wrong phone number. We may the client maybe has moved. So getting in touch with the client usually takes a while. Then we have to do some back and forth to get opportunity to meet with them, trying to schedule a Zoom, whatever it might be. Usually the timeline takes a little while. And then, of course, you have your own timeline and you want to get the packet in close to the policy's anniversary date, right? Because a lot of times we want the client to pay as little as possible throughout the whole time. And so there's going to be some differences and some change management that we want you to be aware of when it comes to the new digital system. It's going to move faster, okay? And so it might mess with your traditional timeline, okay? So I just want you to be aware of that because it's going to move faster, there is going to be a little bit of a timing aspect of it, especially if you're used to the way you do it. So we just want to put that out there. It's going to be a little bit of an adjustment, but we're really excited because I think it's not a huge adjustment. And when you figure it out and you get used to the new timing, it's going to be awesome. And so when you do that, when you have a packet that's ready to submit, we can hold it up to 90 days after the client has done their signature. So that way, if you've gotten the signature maybe 2 or 3 months before their anniversary date and you want to hold it, you can do that, because once you submit this to home office, it gets processed within 24 to 48 hours. Okay. And so we want you to be able to, time it so that you can get it closer to the anniversary date if that's what you're used to, if that's what you want to do. So we can hold the signatures for up to 90 days. And so we'll get into that more, but we wanted to put that out there. Probably one of the biggest adjustments is going to be the timing of the whole process. So let's start by getting into one of these applications. Okay. So of course, when you log in and you click on and you click start a packet, you'll see that the whoever the agent is going to be listed as a servicing agent, usually the RVP, but you can adjust it and change the agent, right? Reassign it. So you just make sure that's looking correct. Obviously, the policy owner location. These are just going to be some of the preliminary questions that you make sure that everything is taken care of. Again, another important notice, if the RVP or office manager has reassigned the policy, make sure that we got the right agent on the policy, right? Because obviously if we have a different agent on the policy, they're going to get the end of term compensation. It's still going to go towards the RVP's end of term bonus, but the agent doing it will get the compensation. And just to put a quick plug, we're covering a lot of good stuff here today for you. At the end, we may go a few minutes over if anybody wants to stay on and talk about the RVP bonus, the end of term bonus system. If you're not super familiar, if you want a refresher, we will cover that at the end as well after we go through the digital packet. All right, so once you've done a couple preliminary questions and there's an acknowledgement, you're going to come to the welcome sign. Okay, so you click continue. And again, this looks very familiar, right? This looks like the Life app. This looks like the policy change form. And you hit continue and we get into the application. And this is one thing that I'm super excited about, guys. And I think a lot of you will be excited about this as well. It's very simple to use, okay? It's very intuitive. There's a lot of great options in here. And the biggest thing that I'm excited about is the ability to get real-time quotes when you enter the coverage in, okay? I know we're all muted, everybody's muted, but I can hear some clapping, I can hear the applause. all the way from here, even though we're all muted, because I know how exciting that is, right? If you've been around, you might have even done end of term quotes on the rate book, right? And I do think that's a dying skill, but if we don't need to use the rate book, then we don't want to use it, right? You have to run into the old quick quote, right? Run the quote, make sure it lines up. It's a little bit, there's always some seeds of doubt. I don't know if anybody else feels this way. I know for me, a lot of times, if I've got into the old quoting system, it's asking you about current coverage. What are you continuing? What's banded, right? And it can be a little confusing, and you're just hoping that you got the right quote for the client. Well, you don't have to hope anymore. This is real-time quoting as you adjust the coverage. So the colors, when something's in blue, that means it can be adjusted. It's one of the parts that's coming up for the end of term. So for this example, we can see there's a 20-year term coming up. There's also the increasing benefit rider. So you'll have the option to work with both of those end of terms. So you're going to go ahead and click edit, and you'll get the drop down. You can do custom exchange, right? For the same amount. Obviously, it's going to be a lot more expensive, but you can always start there. You can do custom exchange and decrease the coverage to find something that fits in the client's budget. Or you can continue it at 450,000. This is our example. Or you can continue it but decrease the coverage. So again, no underwriting stuff here. This is all the stuff you can do inside this packet. For our Canadian friends, if there is an irrevocable beneficiary, you may not decrease or remove coverage without written consent from that irrevocable beneficiary. So you can click in edit, you can go adjust the coverage. Then you can go down to the increasing benefit rider. So you can do multiple products if they're eligible for the end of term. You can decrease that, et cetera, right? So you can go in, make adjustments, get the quote. See, as you see, we changed it and the real-time quote is in there, right? If we go back, I'm going to go back. Custom C420 is 450,000. Their current premium right now before end of term is $59 a month. You click the adjustment, 450,000 at custom exchange is now going to be $324.76. So you have the real-time quoting and pricing to be able to look at that and do that for the client. So this is something you don't have to do this in front of the client, right? You can click into this packet, go in, play with the numbers, edit some things, and come up with some numbers that you want to be able to present to the client. And then, of course, we'll get to how you can deliver it to the client. But once you've updated some of these numbers, now you can get a comparison. So you see the coverage comparison of the current coverage right there in the middle of the screen. You know, it's 980,000 total for $115 a month. Now the requested coverage is, for our example, we're just continuing this different coverage. It's going to be 980,000 for $657 a month. So you see the real-time example of what they've been paying and what it's going to be once the end of term goes through. Another great feature I'm excited about is this little button down at the bottom. Now we blew it up so you can see it. It's a button where you can reset the end of term packet. Okay. So you go in, you make some of those changes that we saw, right? You adjust the custom exchange, maybe lower it, this and that. And let's say you've done a bunch of different scenarios, you've gone through it, and you're not really loving anything, or you just feel like you need a blank slate to start over. All you do is click the reset button. It puts it back to where it was, and you can start over with different quotes and see where you want to go from there. That's going to be a nice tool, I think, because with end of term, there's some moving parts, and you may be down one road, you don't love it, and you want to kind of start over. This makes it real easy. You start over, you can go down a different road. So there's a lot of great, buttons and features in here that make it real easy, I think, for you to find the best solution for the client as you're going through some of these options. Let's say you've got your right option, right? You got the coverage that you want. Maybe you've talked to the client, you've gone in here, and you have a solution that the client feels great about, that you're going to be able to move forward with. You can start to hit continue, and we can move through the process, right? So when you're in the edit area, you pick the coverage amount, you can decrease it, etc. You can decrease the IBR, whatever products you're working with. You find the quote and you find the amount that the client's comfortable with, especially with custom exchange, and you're going to get to move forward and get the client the premium that they want. Now you get here, this is the next page. This is just kind of a coverage summary, making sure that we're good with everything. It's going to have a summary of the current coverage, as you guys can see, all the different products in there and where they're at. And then as you scroll, normally we'd be able to scroll, you can see down below the requested coverage. Now you're going to see the new coverage amount moving forward with custom exchange or whatever option that you choose. You can, of course, go back, make some more adjustments, come back to this page. But if everybody's feeling comfortable and you feel good about it, hit continue. Now, this is another great feature. So I think we've got probably 3 or 4 really great features in this that we didn't have before. The first one being that you can get the real-time quotes right there. Okay, that one I think is going to be very exciting. The second one being that you can just reset the packet and start over, so you don't have to get stuck somewhere. Here's a third really awesome opportunity. Once you've gotten to the right quote that you want to do, you'll have an option here to print a summary, okay? And this is what Steve alluded to earlier versus the old coverage election form versus the new summary page. And here it is again. When you click print summary, you're going to get this nice, clean 4-page summary. It's got a cover page, right? That always looks very professional. It's got their current coverage, what they've been paying, the requested coverage, coverage comparison. This is a great tool that you can print and or email to the client so that they can have a nice summary of the whole end of term process, right? Now, this does not replace signatures. You can't sign this and send it in. This is only to be delivered to the client to give them a nice clean packet of what they're going to have moving forward. We still have to then be back into the digital packet, collect signatures via DocuSign, send those into the home office. But man, I think this looks really beautiful. This is a great professional tool that you can hand over to the client, and they understand what they have now, which is always great. Once you've done all that and you've hit continue, you come to the signature page. This is where you're probably familiar because it looks just like when you do a life app, and it looks just like when you do a policy change form, right? So this is where you send the digital signature via DocuSign to the client. So of course, hey, let's make sure all the info is correct, right? You have an opportunity early on to make sure that all the contact info is in there. You got their email and their phone number. So of course, we always make sure that's correct. If it's not, you see the edit button. There's an edit contact info button. You have a chance to do it one last time before you send the signature, edit the info, send it out, right? Once you send that EOT packet to the client via DocuSign, it locks the packet, all right? So once you send that signature, everything is locked in place because that's the contract that they're signing. If you have to make a change, then you have to unlock the packet and we will need new signatures for that. So keep that in mind as you send out the packet. But by this time, I think you're pretty good to go. You've confirmed with the client, we're at the right place. But those are just a little nuggets I think that we have to remember. So the client gets the email via DocuSign. They can sign their application and they're good to go. Now, here's a couple of things on the timeline. Once the signature ceremony has started, so once you sent that DocuSign to them, they have 45 days to do that first signature. All right. So it can hang out there for, a month and a half. We want time. We want to give you time to be able to complete all this stuff. So you can send it to them. They have 45 days to capture that first signature. Once that signature's been captured, then you as the agent have 90 days to make sure all signatures are complete and submit the packet. Now, the reason why it says complete all signatures is we have to get the policy owner's signature and the payer. Now, most of the time it's the same person, right? But if it's different, then we have to get both those signatures. So if the client signs it and sends it and the payer is, and let's say it's the same, right? Client, the owner and the payer, they sign it. We got 90 days now to submit the packet. So you have the ability to let it stay in your end of term manager and submit it closer to the date of the anniversary date or you can submit it right away. Either one is your option, right? So once you hit continue, you're going to get here. We got the check mark that the policy owner has signed it. Now it's down to a representative review, and you can click review and review the process. And once you hit that, you have the opportunity to submit now or submit later. Okay. If you hit submit later, it's going to go back into your EOT manager and you're going to see the icon that says ready to submit. So that's just going to sit there. You can make a reminder. You can whatever might work best for you, because if you want to wait another month or two to submit it, you can make that reminder and submit it then. If you're ready to go, you can hit submit now. It goes to the home office. Everything's done. So that's something that we're super excited about, guys. And let me just make sure I'm going to reiterate this one more time. Okay. That's what I said. If we've got all the signatures, then you have 90 days. So it's going to sit there in end of term manager. It's going to say ready to submit, and you have 90 days to align that. So again, this is going to be an adjustment, I think, on the timeline, because I do think things are going to move quicker for you with the end of term process with this. So just keep that in mind, guys. Very important. I know a lot of you who do end of terms, you want to get the client to pay the lowest premium every single month, anniversary date hits, and it's a clean transition into their custom exchange or whatever the end of term product that they did. Okay, so this is where you can do that. You can let it sit in your end of term manager, hit ready to submit when you're ready to do that, and get that transition very clean. All right, so once you've done all that, you can hit close. You're going to see that you're going to have taken care of all of your end of term, and that's it. And so you can run these quotes, you can get the information, you can reset your packet. Everything that you can do moves very smoothly. And I think this is going to take care of a lot of man hours with end of term. We're super excited about this process and how it's gone. And we're always excited about making it better, right? We think we've got a great tool for you now, but we're not naive to think that this is the best it's going to ever be. So we always want to make changes. We always want to make improvements. But I'd love for all of you to really embrace this and get started with this because I think it's going to really, I think it's going to make end of terms more fun. I think you're going to be more interested in doing them. And of course, it leads to a great bonus opportunity. But before we get to that, I do think that we have time for a live demo. Is that true? I know we got our team in the back. Tina is on. Okay, Tina, great to see you. Guys, I'm going to introduce Tina real quick, and she's going to take us through a quick live demo. I think mainly of the coverage, showing how it's quoting in real time, and just some of the tool right there inside of it. But guys, Tina at home office, her and her team have been working on this tool. They're very excited about releasing it. We know that doing things digitally on end of term is a big need. And I've gotten some demos. I've been involved in the beta testing for this product, and I'm so excited about it. I think this is a great tool, and Tina and her team developed it. So I'm going to turn it over to Tina, and she's going to give us a quick walkthrough of some of the top features here on this. So Tina, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to you here real quick.
All righty. All right, so we're Jake, you did a great job covering all the intro screens. So what I'm going to focus on for everybody is to cover a real-time demo of the modify coverage and forward. So as you stated in the demo, the walkthrough, anything that's at end of term or within that end of term window, and when we look at the end of term window, we know that we can make changes or we can convert coverage for any phase of coverage that is within 6 months of the anniversary date, which is 6 months prior or 6 months after the anniversary date. It's the edit term options you get to by selecting edit. It opens that expansion, and you can exchange for the current amount, decrease, continue coverage for the same, or continue and decrease. And we have, and you'll notice right now it'll automatically recalculate the premium once you make that selection. And we just had something go wrong. Hang on one second. I need to log back in. I apologize for that. All right, we're back in. All right. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do an exchange, and it's going to automatically recalculate the premium on the fly. Or I can come back and just make another edit and say exchange, and we want to decrease that. Let's just decrease that to 300. The increasing benefit rider. So in this case, the IBR has reached the 20-year mark. So it is available for conversion. So we can exchange to custom exchange, we can exchange and decrease coverage, or we can continue for the same benefit amount. Decreases are not allowed for the IBR, and it is just a back office rule. So we'll need to get you an answer. There was a Q&A that asked about that. So we'll get an answer on why decreases aren't allowed there. But we can cancel that out. So if I wanted to remove the IBR, I can. Any changes that do not require underwriting are supported in the digital end of term packet. So if I wanted to remove the spouse rider, I can also go through the same conversion options for the spouse. If I want to, I'm just going to exchange and decrease. And if I did have a waiver of premium on the policy, I could remove the waiver of premium. If I had a child rider on the policy, I could take that child rider and either decrease the child rider amount or remove the child rider altogether. Once I continue from the modify end of term coverage screen, I land on confirm coverage, which provides me with the summary of current coverage, as well as the requested coverage amount and a coverage comparison. So you can see what they're paying today. And if you were to submit this end of term packet today, what the calculated premium would be going forward. I'm going to come back up here to summary of current coverage. We do have embedded coaching. So to explain what's in each section. So as you're training your downlines, you'll have access to that. When you transition to confirm coverage, if that phase of coverage is coming end of term in the next 6 months, we've branded this to say, hey, this is coming near end of, or this is near end of term. And we provide, you can expand each section, provide the class, and if it's near end of term, what the anniversary date is, and what the premium is going to be if they did nothing. So if they chose to continue for the same face amount, or they took no action on their policy, that premium would go from this amount to this amount on the anniversary date. So it'd go from $59.28 to $350.41. And you can go through each one of these. Requested coverage, we'll go and expand the section here. So we did exchange that line of coverage to custom exchange, and we decreased it. So it gives you the change request reason, and it would have the same information below. If it was, the class, if it was rated, the rating would be displayed. So all of that would be here. But we come in and it's automatically collapsed so that you can get an easier view of the coverage from top to bottom. And then coverage comparison. Now, once you continue from this screen, your coverage changes are saved. And we land on policy owner information. And this gives you the ability to, if their address or contact information has changed, then you have the ability to come in here and update that, so that information is current. And then we also added the ability to update billing information. So If the bank account information has changed, they can update it here, or if you've placed that previous that policy on direct bill, or if it's currently on direct bill, you can take it from direct bill back to PAC. All right. And from billing, it's just like Next Gen PCF and Next Gen Live. You get the Almost There screen, which kind of gives you the explanation of what to expect next. As Jake mentioned, we have the ability to print. So if you want to, instead of waiting or having the conversation after you send the DocuSign packet to the client, you can do the print summary, which is the custom end of term summary. And this gives you the ability to print out or download a PDF of what you just completed with your client, so that you can have that conversation and make any last minute changes before actually kicking off the signature ceremony. And you get to that one, and that becomes enabled once you pass the policy owner information screen. So you get to it from the menu, and it's also available here in the Almost There screen. From Almost There, you get into the signature summary. And all this information, you have the same functionality that you do in PCF, Next Gen PCF and Next Gen Live. So if this information is not correct, you can open this up and make any corrections. If everything looks good and you want to kick off the signature ceremony, just like Life in PCF, hit continue, and it's going to go out and create that DocuSign envelope and send it to your client. It's going to take just a second to come back. Right. So once the packet's been created and sent, this will update, and it'll provide you with the timing on when the first signature needs to be collected. If your client says, hey, look, I didn't get the packet, you can resend it from here. If you've sent it and after the fact you realize, oh, this information is not correct and I need to make additional changes, you can unlock the packet from here and go back in and make any corrections. But this is going to work just like, oops, is the correct. Let me just see here. I'm not sure why I didn't get my email. Not sure why this is not showing. I did get it on my phone though. And once we get to the rep signature, we'll be able to see this. I'm not sure why it's not coming up on my phone.
So Tina, since it's not coming up on your computer, are you signing it on your phone?
Yes, I'm signing it on my phone as we speak.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right, finish that. Now, once that signature comes back, this will update to complete. And then we'll be able to go into the rep review. Now, the difference between the end of term packet, Life, and PCF is that as a representative, you're not required to sign the digital end of term packet. But we also want to give you the ability to review it before submitting it to the home office, just as one last check to make sure everything's correct before that comes back. All right, so we show that it's signed now. I can go into rep review. And you're basically going to see exactly what was sent to your client. So this is the digital end of term packet. So one of the changes that we made is the cover letter going to your policy owner is from you instead of the home office. So this is personalized from you to your policy owner. We've added some FAQs, just general information there. And then basically what you saw in that PDF output, you're going to see here in the digital end of term packet. It's going to show your summary of current coverage for your primary and your spouse, your coverage election form, which is the requested coverage, and then the policy owner information and the signature. And then once you've completed your review, oops, we got a pack. We did have a pack update there. We hit finish, and this is going to basically signify to the system that you've completed your review. And you'll see that this date has now updated to that 90-day mark. And once your signature comes back, you can hit submit now. And we're done. It's submitted to the home office. I actually had a phone call yesterday from a rep I walked through, and within seconds of hitting submit, I saw that the packet show up here at the home office. So it was a real-time submission, and she was able to see that it was done in seconds.
Awesome.
And stop sharing.
Great stuff. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
Hey Jake, I want to jump in. A fantastic job. We appreciate Tina is the was doing so much of that hard work behind the scenes. She is has a long career with Primerica, really bringing these types of tools to our fingertips. And Jake, I know we want to dive into, or you're going to dive into a little bit of that end of term compensation. But there was just a couple of questions that kind of kept on coming up inside of the Q&As, and we got a team of folks here at home office doing their best to answer it. Got a bunch of them, so instead of trying to answer all of them via writing, I'm just going to hit a couple of the ones that I saw kind of over and over again. Number one request was, or a question that keep on coming up, which is, do we plan on changing the logic on who gets the end of term opportunity if there's a new servicing agent or if there's somebody else involved? And the answer on that is no. We don't have any interest in changing the logic behind the way that we give where the end of term opportunities go. And there's a reason for that. So I wanted to kind of just be transparent with the reasoning why. The way we have it set is that we'll always go back to the original RVP. What we didn't want to do is create a way in which somebody could be, servicing agent away end of term opportunities from an RVP who created that business originally. And so it will always go to whichever the RVP was when that phase of coverage was written is going to be the person who gets the end of term opportunity. This protects you as an RVP. That means nobody can go out there and take away your end of term opportunities for the business that you created 20, 30 years ago. So this is designed to protect your integrity of the block of business that you've created. I know a lot of times when somebody's a little frustrated that they themselves have been servicing somebody, we do it to protect the integrity. I know we can't make everybody happy, but we don't plan on changing that. That's something that's a win in there in the way we've done end of term. We did a couple of questions on how do you reassign it, and that process has not been changed. That's in the original end of term process, that when you go into the end of term manager, you had the ability to reassign the agents in that original screen as well. So those functions are there. You're able to do it. We can be able to do some follow-up with the regional sales manager teams. We can even do a continuous training. If you need to reach out to us, more than happy to dive into the nuances of how to do it. I know our phone lines on end of term all know how to walk through that process too. That's probably the quickest, easiest way. If you're trying to reassign somebody, you can call into the end of term line and say, hey, I'm in the EOT manager trying to reassign it, and how do I go through that process? And so there's definitely some things that we saw in there talking about the change of things. And Jake, I know we hit it, and I think I love the fact that I had a lot of people asking the question about how quickly we're going to process this. I think what everybody's realizing is that when we utilize DocuSign, and this is the incredible value of DocuSign, is that it is not had to be manually keyed once it comes here to home office, right? So today, if you get an end of term packet and you send it into home office, whether that's via email, fax, all the different ways you can get it in here, it takes a few days to get keyed. It takes a day or so to get processed, and it takes a little bit of time for that to happen. The value and the benefit of the DocuSign process is once it hits here, like Tina talked about, she saw it hit real time. That's going to be in queue to go through cycle and actually come and make those changes within 24, 48 hours most of the time, sometimes over a weekend, a little bit longer, but it's going to process real time through that business. And so one of the things we want to make sure everybody hears is make sure you're paying attention to when you're submitting that. We do have an enhancement that we want to be able to create a way to queue business to be processed at a later date. That's one of the things that's a goal that we would like to be able to do. I know the team's working on the project. I don't want to give you a time frame when it's going out there, but the team knows to say, hey, how great would it be is if I talk to the client 3 months ahead of their end of term renewal, that we could actually make the changes, sign everything off, and not actually process it until the actual day, around the time of their renewal, so they get the full benefit of their original term coverage. That is on the table. It is being worked on, so we know it. We just don't have it now. So that's why we created some of these longer time periods for you to be able to manage the DocuSign packages, right? So you can get the DocuSign packet back. You don't have to submit it right away. We recognize this now helps you being able to manage some of those different time periods with being able to do that as well. And so these are all things that we want to do. I saw those questions probably more so than anything else. And so I wanted to come in here and instead of trying to send a bunch of messages back and answer those questions out there, we wanted to just come in here and talk to everybody and answer those live with you. But with that being said, I know Jake was going to take a few minutes to dive into EOT comp, which is a big deal, $40 million. I mean, this is larger than some of the other, some things around the company of what we get to do. And so this is not a small thing, but making sure you understand it. And before we do, the question I get all the time, I'm going to probably, step on probably sensitive topics when we do this, but I'm going to talk about it. One of the questions that I get all the time is the idea of, why is end of term comp different than front end new comp? And I want everybody here, I'm going to answer the question as best as I can and explain how this plays out and just the reality of how the life insurance business works. The two major factors inside of life insurance talks about the idea of persistency, will the client pay, and mortality, is the client going to pass away? And so in the very beginning of new business, when I first sit down with a client, the bigger question that you have is a persistency question. How long is this client going to stay with us, right? And so a lot of times you don't know if that client's going to stay with us a long period of time to be able to offset the cost that it takes to underwrite them, pay the agent, all the different pieces of it. But the mortality is very low at that point because we were able to just underwrite that client. We were able to ask them questions, rate them, all that kind of stuff. Fast forward 20, 25, 30, 35 years, it's now been a long time since we've been able to talk to that client and underwrite them. And the other part about from a persistency standpoint, the one question of will they pay, they've now shown that this client's going to stick with us. So what happens is when they actually go through an end of term process, the likelihood of a mortality claim on that client jumps significantly. What that means is the fact that the likelihood we pay out a claim on that end of term client is a lot greater than a client 20 years prior to when we first were going through that process. And so number one, I want you guys to understand the end of term block of business does not perform in a standpoint of persistency and mortality like a brand new piece of business. It persists better, which you would think is a good thing, but not when the mortality it comes alongside of it is a lot different. And so the cost dynamics going on to this, I just wanted to be transparent. It will always have an end of term type of comp because of the fact that we still want to put money on the table for you as the agent that is working hard to take care of our clients. But the economics of that block of business is just not the same as a brand new client we just met and we're walking through that process. And so I always want to be as transparent as I can to talk to you guys through that. And the same reason is that the other question that I saw in the questions a lot is, why can't we just go ahead and do a conversion to a new product inside this paper app and inside of this process? And the easy answer on that is because it requires underwriting. It's going to require being on a new app, and we're going to have to go through that underwriting process that is in there. And by the way, it doesn't get the same front end new comp. That's going to be same. It's going to be considered an end of term client, and it's going to go through that end of term process as well. And we got some other things we want to work on for that to be able to improve that experience through that process. But with that being said, Jake, I wanted to be able to turn it over to you because I know the comp questions that'll come and people always have some different things. I know you'll do a fantastic job, but wanted to kick it over to you to close it out on some of those compensation questions. Appreciate you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. And yeah, I think I think you made some great points there just some of the enhancements that we're looking to do and just clarifying the reasons why we do stuff on our end of term. Guys, thanks for being with us. If you need more information on the stuff we talked about today, here's where you can go. POL, products, life insurance. Go to our latest news tab and you'll get information on the digital end of term packet that we just went over with you. So of course you can go there. You can go into your end of term and start playing around with stuff, right? Get used to it, get comfortable with it, and start utilizing that. And so we realize that we've already gone a little bit over. And so we're going to take maybe 5 to 10 more minutes to go through end of term comp, especially how the bonus system works. So if you're familiar with this already, or you don't really feel like it's necessary for you, go ahead. You can drop off. I won't be offended. But if you want to just stick on for a couple more minutes and really learn a little bit more about how the end of term comp works, we're going to do that right now. So when it comes to the end of term bonus, this is going to be for people who've been around a little longer, who have probably a book of business, life clients that are coming up to end of term on a consistent basis. And you get an opportunity to earn a bonus with your end of term. And you know what? It can be significant if you really work it well. And, I see RVPs who get a $3,000 to $5,000 bonus. I've even seen a $10,000 end of term bonus, and it's not just a one-off. Like these bonuses happen. And so you can really get these types of bonuses if you're working your end of term. So let's talk about a couple things to be eligible for the bonus, right? So like I said, you do need to have some policies in the pipeline. So you have to have at least 5 eligible policies in the same month to be eligible for the bonus. If not, then the policies will carry forward to a maximum of 5 months. Okay, so you got to have enough policies in there to actually show for something. So let's say you got 3 eligible policies in the month of December. Well, those you're not eligible yet for the bonus, but those will carry over. Let's say you got 3 more in January. Now you'll be eligible for a bonus based on those policies together. And so you do have to have policies in the pipeline to be eligible. And then in order to get paid, at least 50% of those policies must be converted or continued and paid current at the time of bonus consideration. So as long as you guys get those policies converted, 50% puts you into the ability to earn the bonus. So there's going to be a little bit of a bonus calculation, okay? So first of all, you have your EOT gross bonusable premium, all right? So that's the bonusable premium that this policy costs. Now, the thing about EOT policies is they usually are higher premiums, and so the bonusable premium can be higher than a new business application. So we take the EOT gross bonusable premium. As you can see, it's the annual commission of the premium, no policy fee to be paid in the first year. Then we multiply it by the continuation quality index, right? So this is going to be the number of policies on which bonuses were paid during the prior 12 months and that are active and paid current divided by all policies on which the bonus was paid within that time. So basically that's going to be the conversion rate, right? So how many how many quality policies did we continue? And if you're above 50%, then you'll depending on how many policies you have in that category, then we multiply it by your bonus rate, depending on how many policies got converted. Okay, so we're looking at number of opportunities, right? Average continued policies, policy size, because that's going to help with the number 3 bonusable premium. And then the success rate is how much you get bonused off of. So let me show you an example. I think this will help put it all together for us. Okay. So first of all, if we're looking at the policies on the left, okay. So this one shows February, March 2021. So February 2021, there was 3 policies. That wasn't 5, so those got carried over into March. March, we had 9. So now for the month of March, we've got 12 eligible policies, okay? So you can see we got 3 continued policies, 4 converted policies. So the success rate is 58%. The bonus premium is 11,500, right? Because these are bigger policies. So we got the success rate, the bonus premium. Now we're going to look at the bonus rate. What was how many did we convert? We're at 10%, right? Because the success rate was 58%. So we're in that first tier. You get a 10% bonus off of this. So we multiply the bonusable premium by the success rate by the bonus rate, and that equals out to $1,100 bonus. So let's go to April, right? April, 8 policies, 4 continued, 3 converted. So now we got an 87% success rate on 10,600 of premium. So that puts us in the 87% puts us in the 30% bonus pool. Okay. So now we get a 30% bonus off of this, which equals $3,100. So that's where the bonus can fluctuate depending on how many policies converted or continued. Now we go to May 2021. Okay. Now this one shows that we had 9 policies, but only 2 so far had converted or continued. So there's no bonus eligible for that yet, right? Because we got to be over 50%. So you can see how this can really grow. And it's important that if we convert, so the nice thing is a continued policy counts for you as well, plus any converted policies. So if you go here, you can see how a little bit easier how it works. So this is another example, April of 2020 for this RVP, 16 total policies, 6 of them continued, 6 of them converted. That's a 75% success rate. That puts them in the 30% bonus rate, okay? 17,000 of premium that we're working with gives us a $4,900 bonus, all right? So again, you don't have to know the exact calculation, right? But I think what's helpful to know is, hey, as you convert and you continue policies and you get a good amount, you'll be eligible for a really good bonus because those premiums are higher and you get opportunities not just to get comp on them. Guys, remember, I'm just talking to you about end of term bonus, okay? I'm not even talking about the actual comp that you make on the end of term as well. And if you want more details on the comp and even on this bonus, you can go to POL and you can go to compensation, and there's an end of term compensation packet there that you can walk through as well. Because obviously, maybe there's questions, different things like that. We don't have time to cover all of those. But the idea is if you work your end of term business and you continue clients, you convert policies, and you do a great job with them, not only can you earn the comp that we give for that, but you can also earn a great bonus as well. And if you have your office manager or an agent inside your office who works your end of terms, work closely with them to make sure that we're having a good success rate, that we're getting policies, we're getting in touch with clients, and these bonuses can really pay off. And so with that, that's kind of the end of my time. I really want to thank everybody for joining us today. I know we went a few minutes over, but we felt like this was a really valuable piece of information to share with you, the new end of term digital delivery. Guys, get out there and utilize it, right? We've heard some great success stories already from the beta and from the RVPs using it. And we want to encourage you to get out there and use it, help your clients, earn some income, get some bonuses as well. If you have any questions, you can follow up with your regional sales manager team. You can see us on POL. We're happy to help. Thank you all for joining us today. Hope you have a great